I mean, people think there are tens and tens of millions of Jews everywhere because of how much attention we get. So I think it gives a little too much credit there to what people know and think about Israel. I don't think people know 90% of what makes Israel great. They just know the curated narrative that they see on social media and on the news, which is that actually Israel is super powerful. It must be huge. It must have hundreds of millions of people there, and they use their power to colonize and oppress others. I mean, like, that's what people think of Israel. But the part that does speak to me is that sense of when, actually also outside of Israel, maybe even more so, like when you're in the diaspora and you're seeing Jews succeeding wherever they go and thriving, it's like, well, what did these guys do to cheat? Because I'm not thriving and there's way more of me than there are of you. And so these guys are cutting the line somehow. They're manipulating things somehow. My problems must be because of them.
The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was. All things are mortal but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality?
Welcome to The Jew Function. I'm Leo.
Hey, I'm Seth. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
You look very happy for a guy who's in the middle of almost World War III, the shortest world war ever.
Yeah,
maybe that's why you're so happy.
Listen, in Israel, we work in the multiples of 6. So we had a 6-day war. Now we had a 12-day war. Next war is going to be 24 days. Hopefully we don't go into full-blown world war. We try to keep them short and
I saw a tweet
snappy.
that said it's pieces here.
I'll tell you where there is peace. There was a lot of peace in Israel among Jews in Israel. I don't know how it is on your end, but I think out of all the last few wars that we had going on here, this one really brought people close together. So
trying to not let us see the
the coffee. I don't want to. This is a trade secret,
the difference. The big difference is we don't have bombs on our heads. We don't have when you're in such an existential situation. I think it's more easy. I remember being in Manhattan during 9/11. I told you the story. And I was like, Dad, you won't believe what's going on here. He's like, give it 3 weeks, son. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Everybody loves each other. Everyone's good. He's like, give it 3 weeks, son. He was right. But when you're under that existential, when someone comes to kill you, everybody bands together. So we don't have that here yet, like you guys have.
It's true, and it works. And so ironically, I don't want that feeling to go away. I hope we don't need more missiles for it, but that's really something that it changes everything. When people see that level of cohesion, they just, there's just nothing that could stand in that way. And for a reason, I mean, we talk about that reason in the Jew Function. If you're new to the Jew Function, I invite you to listen to the first 22 episodes, because you'll hear the.
We have 22 spare hours too.
They're not full. No. We were more economic back then. They're like 35, 40 minutes. Great production value. Put it in your ear. You transport it to another world, and you will hear why we think that there's a reason why this unity works. It's not just a fluke. It's not just a material thing. There's something deeper, and that's really the reason why we invite people to talk about it. And I think that what the interesting thing, Seth, I don't know if you noticed, but we've been getting a lot of good answers to our big question that we ask our guests, and that is, if an alien came to Earth and asked, who are these people, why there's draw so much attention and carry so much influence, even though there's so few of them. We used to get a lot of no clue, and I have no idea, and now we're getting people starting to formulate an answer around that. So that's interesting. I wonder what our guest will say about it, because he himself is a host of a podcast that asks the question, what is being Jewish all about? He's actually a very interesting guest. He's got more followers than us, surprisingly.
Not surprised.
Not surprised. Yeah, he's got a lot of followers, and he's using his followers to, to empower people on the issues of Jewish identity and anti-Semitism. And his podcast, has been drawing attention, and since October 7th, and he was featured in a lot of places. And a lot of places that, frankly, we would love to be featured. So maybe he'll have some tips for us. But I really love his approach, is just openness and desire to learn. And I think between him being an actor, an artist, an advocate for Jewish people, he's a natural bridge builder. He's a natural hub, as we call them. And I think we're going to have a great conversation. Let's just bring him on. What do you say? Let's welcome Jonah Platt.
Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for having me. Thank you for the kind intro.
Oh, well,
great. Very happy to have you.
We could go longer, but I figure let's also talk to you. So
wise.
So I think let's enough of the small talk. Let's just dive right in. When you go on your website, there's a pop-up that says, "What does being Jewish mean to you?" So I want to turn the question to you and ask you, what does being Jewish mean to you? Because I think it's at the heart of a lot of what's happening in the world.
Well, it's funny. I actually answered this question on my podcast yesterday. That was my opening monologue, was really what is because I know. So I get asked that question a lot when I do speaking engagements. People are like, well, what is being Jewish for you? And the answer I gave most recently, which I hadn't given before, it just sort of came organically, and then I did this monologue about it, is responsibility. I feel like Jews, more so than anybody else, feel a sense of responsibility, or should feel, or instructed to feel a sense of responsibility in all things, in every interaction, in every relationship, as we relate to ourselves, as we relate to others, as we relate to the world. We have this sense of responsibility to leave whatever that is, that moment, that relationship, that interaction, better than we found it.
Nice one.
With great power comes great responsibility, type of thing. Is that the?
I don't think it's because we're so powerful. I think it's because we sort of we're called the chosen people, and I don't think we're chosen because we're better than anybody. I think we're chosen because we were like, okay, yeah, we'll do all the 613 things that you say need to be done to like live a godly life, or whatever adjective you want to use. And so I just think that we have taken it upon ourselves to raise our hand throughout history and be a group of people that, even when the world wants to go one direction, we try to be a light shining in the other direction.
Well, what is the direction that the world wants to go, and what's the direction that we want to go?
I think in general, if left to our own devices, humanity wants to tap into our baser instincts, our more heinous instincts, our more selfish, greedy, short-sighted, violent instincts. And Jews have tried to take a different approach. They try to treat your neighbor like yourself and take responsibility for one another, and all these different ways of honoring the world and ourselves and each other that are just part and parcel of what it is to be a Jew.
I don't think that's obvious. I agree with you, but I don't think it's obvious to everybody that that people gravitate towards the more base desires. I mean, there's plenty of evidence for it everywhere.
All the time.
Yeah. But I think that if you ask most people, in our country, let's start with, they would say, no, we want things to be good. We want things to, we want peace.
Freedom.
Yeah. Freedom.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all, they've done all these psychological experiments throughout the years, right? Where people, like, when you really leave people to it, most people are jerks. And
yeah, that's true.
They're willing to just shock another person who they've never met in another room because they're told they should do it, and they're hearing a dude scream, "This hurts," and like most people just like keep doing it because they say to do it. Or like somebody's lying on the ground, and most people, if they have somewhere to go, like will walk by that person. So like, yes, I think most people in their heart go, yeah, of course, I want the same thing everyone else wants. I want a good life for my family. I want freedom. I want peace. But with no sort of guiding principles or no taking of responsibility when the shit hits the fan, they're gonna default to some of those more selfish, animalistic instincts that things like being Jewish try to create scaffolding around to prevent and keep us focused on our higher nature.
So before you go super deep, because I feel this guy has like depth in him, how come you're so wise, Jonah? Maybe you can give us a little bit, for some people who for some reason don't know you, who are not already following you. How did you get into even this whole topic? Like, did you grow up feeling anti-Semitism? What's the? Give us a little bit of a take us through memory lane.
Sure. The way I grew up actually will speak to sort of my approach to all of this and why I'm doing what I'm doing is because I grew up with no anti-Semitism, and I grew up being Jewish and really identifying from the day I was born as Jewish. I went to Jewish day school. I went to Jewish sleepaway camp, celebrate all the holidays with my cousins and grandparents and siblings. And it's just always been an enormous part of who I am. And that's what sort of fuels my advocacy, is trying to help other Jews take ownership of their Jewish identity and celebrate it and find how they're going to connect to it, because certainly everybody connects to it in a different way, which is totally fine and great. The important thing is that you connect. So, because of what's happened in the world, I've had to be more outspoken about this stuff. I sort of started doing that online pretty organically in like 2021 was sort of when I really began using. I had a smallish platform because of my entertainment work, and identified that I could be useful just as being a person who's very Jewishly literate and like well-read and consumes a lot of information, that I could provide some nuance and explanation to what was going on in spring of 21 when there was violence between Israel and Gaza, and there was a lot of anti-Semitic stuff being thrown around, and a lot of even Jews were like very confused about what was going on. And I tried to just sort of be a little bit of a filter and like a calming educational presence. And the response was very positive, and it's sort of slowly and organically picked up steam from there until October 7th, when it became sort of my full focus just organically. So I didn't really want to be doing anything else. Nothing else felt important. And that's the road I've been on ever since.
Let me ask you, you said you had this very normal life, no anti-Semitism, growing up doing all the regular Jewish stuff. Did at any point, did you feel, or did you get the impression that you were somehow a little different, or that there is some difference between this group of people that I belong to and other groups of people?
It's a good question. I don't know that I would say it's something I was acutely aware of and like thinking about actively. But there's something special about Jews. I'll give you a recent example. Like, my wife and I were in Venice, Italy, and my wife converted. And so my wife I'd never had any kind of relationship with Chabad. Had no idea really what that was or what that meant or what that looked like. And I obviously am familiar with them and know what they are and what they look, but I'm not particularly orthodox. I haven't spent a lot of time in Chabad spaces, but I'm aware of what they are. So we were in Venice, Italy, and the Chabad there is in the Jewish ghetto, the former Jewish ghetto of Venice. It's a really cool sort of reclamation situation in there. And we were in Italy over Shabbat, and I said, I think it'd be nice to go to the Chabad for Shabbat and like do a Italian like Shabbat Jewish thing. And my wife was like, okay. And then we go to this thing, and then within half an hour, my wife is crying as we're, all gathered in the square, like lighting the candles and singing, and there's like a free meal. And she's like, who else in the world does this? Like, who comes together? These are people from all over the place, and they're all just here. They all are here for the same reason. They're all connected, people you've never met, people who are different than you, people from everywhere, like having a free meal together. Like, what is this beauty? And she was crying. It was really beautiful. And to me, like, that's the kind of thing I've always felt about Jews. There's just this sense of community and taking care of each other, and this connection wherever you are and whoever you are. And that I've always been aware of.
So, first of all, spot on, right? Everything you say, this is exactly like if someone would give a long answer to what is a Jew, you're in the ballpark, right? It's it's what it is. Jew. I don't know if you know this, but Jew, Yehudi, from the word yichud, unity. It's not just the Yehuda and the gratitude and all that. That's the sort of the external story. But the internal story is the unity, because this is a people born out of nature's need to have a group that will point in that direction, as you were saying again,
Right.
so intuitively. Simply a need of nature. You can say creator at the end, it doesn't matter. There's a system with laws. You can call those laws, you can call them mitzvahs. It doesn't matter what you call it, right? You can call it the mitzvah of gravity, and if you break it, you're going to be punished severely in your bones, right? It's like, it doesn't matter. There's laws. We don't understand all the laws. We don't know all the laws. There's a lot of misinterpretation happening. That's part of the problem. But everything you said, that is it. The question is, the question that Seth and I grapple with all the time is, this sounds such a good proposition. Like, what's the catch? Why isn't everyone already doing it? At least Jews, forget about everyone, the big everyone, the nations of the world, as we sometimes amicably refer to them.
Well, what we saw,
why aren't Jews unified? Is that the question?
Yeah, that's the question. Not only that, when however we want to take these kind of sources, it says that 25 or 20% of the Jews left Egypt in the Exodus. And when we go back and we look at, so we spend, like Leo's mentioned, those first 20 episodes of our show, we basically go from biblical times all the way through modern times. When did we finish that, Leo? So before October 7th, we finished it. But
no, we finished it a long time before.
So what year? Anyway, it's not the point. The point is we went through
2021, when he started his podcast. That's
we went through each time, each calamity of the Jews, and each calamity that happened before the Romans were able to defeat us, before the Greeks were able to defeat us, before the Babylonians were. There was always inner strife. And so the external enemy always came after the internal situation became broken. Like they said that the most obvious ones they say is that the second temple was destroyed because of unfounded hatred, right? So when the Romans actually came, the generals said, let them finish killing each other. There was a civil war going on, and then they were able to come in. So the crazy thing is that what you said, like, who else? There's planes of Israelis flying back to Israel, like now, like in the middle of this war. It's insane, right? Like October 7th happens, and Israelis are trying to get back to Israel.
Right.
Like, people don't get that. People are like, oh, are your friends leaving? Are your friends okay? Do they need a place to stay? Like, no, they all want to go back there. Everyone wants to be there. People are like, I don't understand. What the hell are you talking about? What do you mean they want to be there, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. If there was a war in the US, people are like, fuck that. I'm not sending my kids to go fight. And so, right? It's a totally different situation.
Yeah.
So we have this thing with Jews that you described so beautifully about this warmth, this connection. No matter where you go, it's like a family. And then there's this other weird piece that, like, there's this like fighting between us and this division between us that exists. That's this other thing that's that we have to understand where to place it and what to do about it.
Well, let's see what he's. Yeah,
I mean, there's a couple ways that I would go at this. I mean, if we're gonna go, Jewish text here, like the very first two brothers ever created, one of them killed the other one. So, like, it is in our nature to argue and to be divided and to like talking about those baser instincts, to be jealous of one another and upset with one another and not communicating. And so I think in any group of any kind of people, you're going to find disagreement. Add to that like disagreeing is very intrinsic, and one of the great things about Judaism and the way that we look at the world and the way we interact with each other is how important it is to have opposing ideas. I mean, that's what the Talmud is just like thousands of opposing ideas. And then you have just sort of the reality of the world in which Jews have been spread out in all different places and have all these different lived experiences that have just taken different human beings in different directions. And then there's the trap of how easy it is to be a hypocrite in so many different ways. I mean, the most frustrating like hate that I get online is when I get it from Jews. And I'm like, come on, like we're supposed to be better than this. You're supposed to be talking to me, even if you disagree with me, like way more respectfully than this.
What's the biggest criticism that they have with you?
It depends on what it is. It's like if I say something that somebody on the right doesn't like, it's that I'm being too liberal with something. If somebody from the left doesn't like, it's that I'm being too conservative with something, which lets me know I'm like doing a good job. But it just depends on what it is. But just people will be rude in the way that they'll come after me for certain things. And when it's a Jewish person, it hurts more. Because I'm like, we're supposed to be in the same
team.
Yeah, we're on the same team. And again, like if you don't like what I'm saying, that's fine, but you don't have to be a dick about it.
I think everything you say is exactly what we're after. In other words, all those things. Take every. Here, I'll drop a little nuke on your head right now. take everything you've ever read in the Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everything that you've ever seen in the Talmud, all those things, and assume, sake of conversation, not because I said so. Wiser people have said so. Assume that none of it speaks of external happenings in this world. They all speak about internal struggles inside of a person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. How does the Talmud open? Two are holding it's one tzitzit, one prayer shawl. One is pulling left, one is pulling right. That's one of the opening. Those are desires in you.
Yeah.
And what we call an evil inclination, a good inclination. An evil meaning egoistic, that feeds yourself at the expense of everyone and everything. That's that base desire that you talked about. It's not the desires themselves, food, sex, family, that's fine, but it's how you use it. It's the intention behind it that's egoistic, selfish, exploitative. That's one. And then the other desire is a desire for the other. Love your friend as yourself, right? Love your neighbor as yourself. That rule that collects all of the other rules in the Torah underneath it, right? Those are the two forces. That's it. There's nothing else. And everything you hear and read about are only this interplay between these forces inside of a person and then collectively between people.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay.
That's right.
So these two brothers, Cain and Abel, two forces inside of you. Isaac and Ishmael, two forces inside of you. Jacob and Esau, two forces. Do you notice how this thing happens in pairs all the time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because
Moses and Pharaoh, everywhere we go.
Yeah, there's always that interplay, and then this goes a step further because once our buddy Abe, he figured it out in Babylon that observing nature, that this is a story, and that when you don't like the other guy, you don't write a toxic comment on YouTube and you get off. No, you take your the friction that you feel towards him, and you take your friction, and then you guys rise above it, kind of like how you do it with your wife. I assume you're married happily, right?
Yeah.
You put it down, you step on that because you realize, oh no, this is just an expression of my egoistic self. I'm going to step on that. I want to reveal a higher level of connection between us, and this will allow me to do it. Specifically, that revelation. That's what Abraham discovered, and that was the beginning of the Jewish people, of the Hebrews, also Hebrews that they go from one side to another, from one desire to another. It's all about that. That's the whole story. And so, so the question is, how do you think we can get people to connect a little bit more with that DNA? Because if we don't know what we're about, we won't understand our place in it. We're just gonna sort of pretend, try to identify as everyone else, which is what Jews kind of fall onto usually, right? Trying to blend in. instead of
It's a great question. I mean, it's sort of the only way I can think to really answer it is we need to, I think, change the way that we approach Jewish education as a whole, and make sure that the things that we're seeing today that really matter in terms of Jewish identity are things that we're leading with in Jewish education, certainly from a young age, as complex as we can go at a young age, but it has to also be continual. It can't, one of the guests on my show, Sarah Hurwitz, talks about this a lot, great author, how basically most American Jews, at least, you stop learning at bar mitzvah age, which is just when you're getting to the age when you can really start learning the important stuff and going deep on things. And so that's a major, fault that is a feature of Jewish education, where just when we're getting to the good stuff, it drops off the face of the earth. And then you'll find people who are searching for wisdom and meaning in life, and they're looking everywhere but at Judaism. They're looking at the Buddhism, they're looking at self-help books, they're looking at retreats, they're blah, blah, blah. But it's sort of, and her book is called Here All Along, because it's been here all along. We just don't know to look for it. So I think we need to, as a global Jewish community, confront that and help people understand who and what Jews are in a really deliberate way, beyond just here are the prayers you have to know, here are the stories you have to know, here are the Hebrew words you have to know, here are the holidays, which are all important. And I understand, especially in youth, we need that literacy too. It's we got to know how to live and practice those things. But what's it all for if we don't know all the other stuff?
Exactly. And this is, by the way, this is, I grew up, Seth probably grew up more connected to Jewish religion than I did. I grew up in a totally secular.
Well, you're Israeli, so yeah.
Yeah. I was Israeli. My parents were, European and came to Israel. You got to study hard and, get a good job, preferably a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, if nothing else works. And, right. And that's it. And obviously I've done none of that, and they were supportive of, that. But, I was going with it is that, I feel like there's such as you said, ignorance, not only ignorance, also fear maybe of this, of what we have, that treasure chest. It's wrapped up in so much, lots of, outdated clothing and other things, and people just don't want to touch it. And I feel like, when I found out that Israel, that means the word Israel doesn't mean it's not just the land of Israel, and it's because it's one of Jacob's names in the Bible. I didn't understand that as well. But when I learned that Israel means Yashar El, straight to the Creator, that's what this name is. That's what this group is doing. Creator being the force of love and bestowal, that altruistic quality, that for the other quality. That's what the Creator is, that force, nothing else, not some old guy in the sky. And there's one group that's trying to pull humanity in that direction. That's Israel. Yeah, this is it. When we, so that to me, that's like, oh shit, we're looking at the whole thing all wrong. We're like, we're doing, forget organic agriculture and recycling. Right. We have a more important task here.
I think you're right in that so much of it is over time become wrapped up in survival instincts and tucking it away or distancing ourselves from it or forgetting it's there because we're so focused on needing to survive and to not be persecuted. So there's so much of that inherited sense of we need to assimilate, or we need to apologize for what makes us great, or distance ourselves from it so as not to attract more hatred or attract attention, or to be thought of as arrogant or not humble, or whatever the case may be, which is, again, sort of speaks to my whole lane of my advocacy, is sort of trying to get people to be proud of being Jewish and empower them to reconnect with all of that stuff that makes being Jewish great, and not apologize for it, because certainly hasn't helped. So
No,
it can only help us to try something different.
We don't have any. I mean, maybe if you think the Strimel's a cool outfit, but we don't have any cool like Maharishi style.
come on,
If only we could
the
have
socks, the white socks to the knees. That's cool. That was cool for a while.
No, but like you mentioned here, Jonah, that to get people to identify I don't know what you just said, the cool that like this treasure that we have. So if you take the East, because when we think of spirituality or holiness, right? Like I'm calming everything down, I'm settling everything down, I'm being quiet, and we think maybe like more Eastern methods. Calm the ego down, right? Like less desires, and less desires equals less suffering. And we have all kinds of mystics and people from the East. On the other, and also on the East is more collectivism, like Russia and China, be more like communist. Everything is like one system, and you have Buddha and the Hindu and all that kind of stuff. Then you go West, you have America. Everyone's an individual. Everything is, capitalism, every man for himself. And the holiness that we're talking about, the Jewish thing, we don't have this thing where we like leave the world and go to the Himalayas and detach. Like we're this, and even where we are, even where Israel is, between the East and the West, between this total, for example, like I'm just totally painting with broad strokes, but China, Russia, this more communist collective thing, and these Eastern techniques, and then the West, which is all about individualism and the self and capitalism, and you have Israel in the middle, the Jew in the middle, who he's a businessman, or he is an entertainer, or he's in the world, and he's also like a holy he's also making these inner corrections. It's totally not a template that we're used to in this world, because if you're out there like with like our thing is love everyone, but if you come to kill me, I'm going to kill you first. Like it's like, wait, what? Right? It's not a normal kind of perspective. So how can you look at me with a machine gun on, or driving a nice car, or living in a nice neighborhood, and also that I'm spiritual? It's like it's usually the world is used to this one or the other, and we're not one or the other. We're this total synthesis of heaven and earth. We're this synthesis of like detaching, like the East, and also being fully about the self and money and everything of the West. And the Jew has to be this synthesis. And it's like Jews are just apologetic about everything, right? Like the Jews voting for this guy in New York now, who's I don't know if you heard about this. Yeah, right. It's like it's just crazy the situation that Jews are in, because we don't have, and what you said about education, that we're exactly on this track, that true education about who we are and what our role is. People just don't even realize. No. We have to show somehow a true example of what this Jew is. It's not Woody Allen, and it's not Jeffrey Epstein, and it's not George Soros. So who is it? Who's the badass warrior, but also holy? Like who is that guy? Maybe it's you, Jonah. So like who is?
It's Jonah.
I'm no warrior.
So hopefully. Okay, well, you look like a warrior. You look like an Israeli soldier. But who is that that guy who can balance the inner warrior? Really, it doesn't matter what the external is, but that can balance both of those things.
Yeah, overcoming himself basically is really what it's about.
Overcoming who?
Himself, yourself.
Yeah, but also externally, guys. We got an entertainment guy here. Like we need to talk about the external thing. Like what can people see? That's the problem. Like if you're
a big problem. It's something that in terms of entertainment, I speak about this a lot. The the easiest, fastest, most widespread way to humanize anybody, be it a Jew or anybody else, is through television and film, honestly. And there's a reason you're listing people like Woody Allen and Jeffrey Epstein and George Soros. That's who people see on TV, in the news and on their social media and in their movies. That's the touch point. That's all they've got. So it's really important on the entertainment side that there be a push. And I am seeing it behind the scenes, but that there be a push for more better Jewish storytelling, Jewish representation, and contemporary storytelling, not just Holocaust stories, not stories where Jews are, only rich white people or diamond dealers who are black hat Orthodox. But for example, like the show Nobody Wants This on Netflix, which is a very popular show, where it's just, contemporary people who are Jewish. That's what we really, really need to sort of start giving people another touch point, because all they've got, look, most people on earth will never meet a Jew as long as they live. And most people's only touch point are the news, social media, and movies or TV shows.
It's actually, now I finally get that point when Seth and I were reading through your stuff, and he said that you're saying that we need better Jewish representation in Hollywood. I thought it was like a typo or something. It's like, Hollywood was
Is it all Hollywood Jewish?
It's all, yeah, everybody's Jewish. So
Hollywood is full behind the scenes of Jews who, the vast majority are Jews who are not connected to their Judaism or don't really identify, or are very loosely, very assimilated, sort of weak cultural connection.
Of course, they were just using their gifts as Jews without realizing it, and renounced everything else. I totally get it. But what you just said, I think, this is actually brilliant, because you are right. There is no, if I'm trying to think, where can I see a Jewish person who is going through these struggles internally, who's trying to do the right thing in the face of everything else is wrong, but understands the sort of a bigger
He's walking
picture.
that balance between the east and the inner east and west, between the good inclination and the bad inclination.
There's nothing. I mean, you saw the closest film that the film that came closest was A Serious Man. That was but it was just, it was so out there that it remains like this little philosophical piece. But yeah, as far as additional shows and just a soap opera, right, that would run for 100 seasons, that would just kind of get into that inner, that's missing. I mean, even Larry David was was showing only one neurotic side of it, and not.
He's a Seinfeld Jew.
Yeah, exactly. He's a caricature Jew. So you're right. I mean, that part is missing. I mean, I'm thinking in terms of like big films and all that, but really just like
what would that guy look like? Like if there was a show about that guy, or if there was a show about these characters, like what is the story that people need to see?
I think the key is that it needs to be a story that's not necessarily about being Jewish, but just that the character is a person who happens to be Jewish and moves through the world as a Jew. And so whatever struggle or obstacle they have to overcome within this narrative, it's through their Jewish lens.
And if there was a parallel show with a guy who wasn't a Jew, what would be the difference between the two stories?
It would be sort of the same, but instead of the guy in his moment of crisis going into the church and confessing to a father, which is like a scene we've seen 10,000 times, it's a guy going, I don't know, into the back of the synagogue, and maybe his rabbi says something to him, or he's talking to some wise person he knows in his life, and they're talking it out and they're referencing something Jewish, and instead of going to a Christmas party, he goes to a Hanukkah party, but it's the same exact thing that would happen at the Christmas party happens at the Hanukkah party. It's a Jewish background and not a Christian one.
And why is that better?
Because it's introducing people to Jews and humanizing Jews through narrative, which hits you in an emotional way.
There's one other piece I want to get to. The Jew is not a human, like in a sense. Excuse me for saying, We're talking
What
about
do you mean?
0.2% of the population. There's something extraterrestrial about this people. There's something eternal about this people. So,
You want to read that
so
post, Seth? Maybe read that post that we bumped on.
okay. Just a sec. I'm trying to formulate this idea. Okay. All right. I'll get back to this because it was like a big poof. But okay, there's this.
the big
I don't know. Did you find this Spig, or where did this come from?
Yeah, my mom forwarded it to me actually.
Okay, so it's a guy on X called New York Average Jew or something.
An average New York guy.
An average New York guy. Okay. All right. There's something about Israel that makes people uncomfortable, and it's not what they say. So we're not affiliated with this guy. We saw this, and it sounded like what we talk about. So, okay, there's something about Israel that makes people uncomfortable, and it's not what they say it is. They'll point to politics, settlements, borders, and wars, but scratch beneath the outrage, and you'll find something deeper. A discomfort not with what Israel does, but with what Israel is. A nation this small should not be this strong, period. Israel has no oil, no special natural resources, a population barely the size of a mid-sized American city. They're surrounded by enemies, hated by the UN, targeted by terror, condemned by celebrities, boycotted, slandered, and attacked. And still they thrive like there's no tomorrow. In military and medicine and security and technology and agriculture and intelligence and morality and sheer unbreakable will. They turn the desert into farmland. They make water from air. They intercept rockets in midair. They rescue hostages under the nose of the world's worst regimes. They survive wars that were supposed to wipe them out. I'm getting the chills. And when the world watches this and can't make sense of it. So they do what people do when they witness strength they can't understand. They assume it must be cheating. It must be American aid. It must be foreign lobbying. It must be oppression. It must be theft. It must be some dark trick that gave the Jews this kind of power. It must be blackmail. Because heaven forbid it's something else. Heaven forbid it's real. Heaven forbid it's earned, or worse, destined. The Jewish people were supposed to disappear a long, long time ago. That's how the story of exiled, enslaved, hated minorities is supposed to end. But the Jews didn't disappear. They actually came home, rebuilt their land, revived their language, and brought their dead back to life in memory, in identity, and in strength. That's not normal. It's not political. That's biblical. There's no cheat code that explains how a group of people return to their homeland after 2,000 years. There's no rational path from gas chamber to global influence. And there's no historic precedent for surviving the Babylonians, the Romans, the Crusaders, the Inquisitions, the pogroms, and the Holocaust, and still showing up to work on Monday in Tel Aviv. Israel doesn't make any sense unless you believe in something beyond the math. This is what drives the world crazy. Because if Israel is real, if this improbable, ancient, hated nation is somehow still chosen, protected, and thriving, then maybe God isn't a myth after all. Maybe he's still in the story. Maybe history isn't random. Maybe evil doesn't get the last word. Maybe Jews are not just a people, but a testimony. That's what they can't stand. Because once you admit that Israel's survival isn't just impressive, but divine, everything changes. Your moral compass has to reset. Your assumptions about history, power, and justice collapse. You realize you're not watching the end of an empire. You're witnessing the beginning of something eternal. So they deny it, they smear it, and they rage against it because it's easier to call a miracle cheating than to face the possibility that God keeps his promises and he's keeping them still.
It's a lot for X. Squeezed a lot in there.
Yeah. Seriously.
140 characters.
Yeah. I mean, that was really interesting. I think the part that jumps out the most to me, and I think goes for Jews anywhere, not just Israel, though obviously Israel is the Jewish state, so it makes sense it would go for Israel, is that sense of, how are you guys doing so well? You must be cheating. There must be something, you must be doing something nefarious to be thriving like this. And I do think that that's a sensibility that deep down a lot of people harbor. The part that I didn't agree with was like, the world watches as Israel does blank, 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 blank. In my experience, most people don't know anything about Israel. So I don't think the world is watching people reclaiming their ancient language and defeating these wars and being like, people don't know that Jews are 1% of the world. People think there are 100 million Jews in the world. 0.2, excuse me.
Come on, dude.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I took half of them out. Yeah, I mean, people think there are tens and tens of millions of Jews everywhere because of how much attention we get. So I think it gives a little too much credit there to what people know and think about Israel. I don't think people know 90% of what makes Israel great. They just know the curated narrative that they see on social media and on the news, which is that actually Israel is super powerful. It must be huge. It must have hundreds of millions of people there, and they use their power to colonize and oppress others. I mean, like, that's what people think of Israel. But the part that does speak to me is that sense of when, actually also outside of Israel, maybe even more so, like when you're in the diaspora and you're seeing Jews succeeding wherever they go and thriving, it's like, well, what did these guys do to cheat? Because I'm not thriving and there's way more of me than there are of you. And so these guys are cutting the line somehow. They're manipulating things somehow. My problems must be because of them.
Let's go back to this character in this show. Oh, go ahead, speak.
No, that's also interesting to me. I just wanted to say that it's something, brought it up in a conversation with another guest that we had, which is I had friends who went to Italy for work. They're like consultants, I don't know, tourism related, whatever.
Nice.
And they were sitting with this guy, Italian guy, not Jewish. And they were talking about something, and he was kind of like outlining the husband. They're a couple, husband and wife. The husband was like outlining, this will happen, and then this, and then we'll do this and this and this and that. And the guy looks at him, is like, dude, you guys always see like 5, 6, 7 steps ahead, and I can't see it. And I think that was very telling, because I think there's a lot of things that Jewish people experience and have access to, let's say, internally, as far as internal qualities that we take for granted. We don't see them, but people from the outside and look at it and they can't figure it out. That's why they think it's cheating, and they don't know why that is. And also, Jews don't know why that is. We know why that is. By the way, we talked about it, because when you actually connect, when you actually do that connection thing, when you actually make that effort to connect with someone, even when you have friction, even right, and you insist on forming a higher level of connection, you build this network between you, you kind of get access to like
higher intelligence.
Yeah, the system is basically it's like it's like the people with 2 eyes can see those stereographic posters, but if you only have 1 eye, you can't.
Yeah,
it's exactly that.
Yeah,
so,
I think some of that comes from just the fact that we are, as Jews, talking about and thinking about these things by nature, where other people just aren't being even exposed to these ideas or ways of thinking. They, we have, this full plate of stuff to eat off of, and other people are just not getting that same plate, and they don't know what they're not getting.
Exactly. I mean, our sages, they say that we've reached that point. It was called the second temple, the first temple, actually. Again, not the stones and wood and whatever, fancy leather and gold. The idea, this level of connection between the people that, opened this dimension to us, let's say, this feeling, imagine if I can feel what you feel, if I can think what you think, if we have that intuitive connection, which you can sometimes feel with family members or really close friends. If you have that all the time with a large group of people, that's insane. That's intense. And we've been like cruising on that since then. Like we fell from that degree. So we're not on that level of first temple, not second temple, but as a nation, the Jews always kept it, even externally, right? As a small nation, we always had these messengers between the communities and the book that connected everyone. And all those things, they add up. People they think, oh no, because they're hard students, they're very studious people and they study hard. I didn't study hard, it wasn't that. But there's something that we have access to, and we're not using it. We're using it to fulfill ourselves. That's what we're doing. And I think I'm going to say another big thing. I think it's hurting us, and it's hurting the rest of the world. Like I take full, you said responsibility. I see you and I raise you. I take full responsibility for ourselves, but for the rest of the world as well. If they can't reach that level without me doing something, then man, I'm in the fault. You know, I got to do something about it.
The one thing that you just said that I want to respond to is that, you know, you didn't study. I do think, you know, look, as Dara Horn, who's a brilliant writer, said on my show, she's like, we are a people who kisses books, you know? So like, and everywhere throughout history, we have been well over, what's the word I'm looking for? Overrepresented in the literate portion of a population. So like there is part of that Jewish culture that is all about learning and wanting, and, you know, so I just wanted to give us that props there.
Yeah. It's not instead of. My point is like this in itself doesn't account for it. You know,
Correct.
The Koreans, the South Koreans were like, oh, Jews are so smart.
Right.
You know, the East is interesting. It's not like the West is trying to put down Jews. The East are like, oh, Jews are good. Let's be like Jews.
Right.
But they're not trying to be like Jews in, you know, emotionally and the level of connection that we're talking about. They're trying to just be smart like Jews. So they're studying Talmud and this and that.
Right.
But that in itself is not gonna do it. You know, no offense to anyone. It's like you can load a camel with books, but right, you won't learn how to read because it's not about that. That's not that's an expression of that quality. It's not the reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the root of it, and that's what we keep coming back to, is that connection that we have. You said again, responsibility. There's another addition: mutual responsibility. That's the quality that lived among the people of Israel when we came out of Egypt. Mutual responsibility, arvut, it's called in Hebrew.
Yeah, there's that. I forget the exact Hebrew of it, but that all of Israel is guarantors for one another.
Aravim, Aravim,
yeah, Aravim, guarantors.
Yeah,
and you know that I love that because I take that to mean not a reminder of all these, I'm responsible for all these people, as much as all these people are responsible for me. They are my guarantors. Like, they didn't take out the loan. I took out the loan, and they have been made responsible on my actions. So I need to be keeping them in mind with how I move through the world, that I'm not causing the people around me, my friends, my family, my community, to default on my loan, so that, my mistakes do not become their mistakes and drag them into it. And, we fail at that all the time, but we need to be striving to always have the other in mind in that way, because they are our guarantors.
This is the challenge when it comes to this character. I'm trying to imagine who this character is. So he has this, well, like, let's just say that this piece that you said, that all of these people are my guarantors. I referred to it as something eternal or extraterrestrial between these people that carries them through everything. So it's not just that we're looking, okay, how does the Christian guy would go to the church and the Jewish guy would go to the synagogue. It's not, and Hindu guy would go to wherever he would go to. It's not just comparative, right? Like, let's just see more Jewy stuff, and so people would get to feel it. But there's also this inner thing, is what, because the other piece is you try and explain something to people. It's not easy to explain to, for example, a child why he needs to eat the chicken and not just the cake, right? Or why he needs to go to sleep. So when you're talking about humanity, if we have this responsibility on ourselves, how do you go out then? How do we present to people this situation where everybody is just looking to self-satisfy themselves, and we're talking about something where we're all connected to each other, and it's not a burden for us to all be connected and responsible for us. And in fact, it opens up a whole nother layer of what it means to be alive. But how to show an example of that people can relate to in any way.
So I have a couple of ways to answer that. One is, look, I don't have the exact story right now off the top of my head, but what the essence of what you just said is a Jewish idea. But if it's not in a vehicle that is recognizably Jewish, then it just feels like humanity. Right. So like, if I tell a story about a baseball team, and like the lead of the baseball team ends up like coming to really learn and understand that story, that like I really need to be playing for my team, and it matters how I take care of my teammates much more than my own accolades. Like, we're going to get that idea, but I'm not going to know it's Jewish unless the kid is Jewish and it's the JCC baseball team, right?
Hold on. And you're not going to get the idea that it's actually a law of nature and it's part of a higher mission. That's the missing piece. Every Disney movie is about the guys getting together to beat the bad guy, right? But what for? So we could have some good time for ourselves. No. There's a higher mandate here, a commandment, a mitzvah, call it whatever you want, a law of nature that we're breaking, and that's what we're seeing all the shit in the world. It's not because it's not.
Let's take a break for a second. No, we have to explain this. It's like something that's not normal to talk about.
Nothing normal about the show, Seth. It's not.
Well, I mean, if I may, I think what you're sort of basically saying is let's say the universe is like a machine and it's like not working right now because it's the pieces aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Exactly. And if it does
call it a sickness and the thing is sick, and it's like we need to be doing what's going to heal it.
And imagine what it would be. Imagine how the system would function if it was working properly. It's not just like, because if we imagine right now, like, what would heaven be like? Well, I'd have a good bank account, and I'd have a pretty wife, and I'd have like a good house and like good food, and I'd be strong and taller, and like, like could heaven be? Right?
A bigger schlong.
What?
A bigger schlong.
But imagine something. All we can really think of is just better stuff. You know what I mean? But there's some other level that we're talking about.
Yeah, the example we like to give, again, I was also struggling with this idea. The example I like to give is, when's the last time you had like the flu or COVID? Did you have COVID?
I just had it.
Did I have COVID like 3 or 4 times?
Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm sure the first time was probably, I don't know.
It was the worst one.
Right. So remember that when you had it, you felt like half a person, right? Like you were like at 10% capacity. Like you can't. And then when you got better, when eventually you got better and everything, symptoms went away and everything, you had this additional level of life like added to your, right? Like more HP to your character. This is what we're talking about, but from this level, not from, not from COVID, but from this. Imagine your best self, then imagine that you were just like a sick person and there's like a whole other life that you can, it's that. And by the way, our sages said, and this is a short quote, they said, no calamity comes to the world if not for Israel, and no good comes to the world but for Israel. The guidance of all the worlds is given to Israel. So it's a big responsibility. We got to find a way to tell that story, man, or the plane is going down. The train
everyone needs to know that it's for the good of everyone. It's not like it's not some thing that's just for us. It's like you opened up with this responsibility thing, that somehow to show a good example of a good future for everyone. That if we can make that family like you felt in Italy. If life can just from small concentric circles to bigger circles until life can be like this, and not from above by some imposed communism or some imposed socialism, which is filled with egoism at the end of the day, right? You're gonna enforce sharing by a bayonet. I mean, come on. But somehow from the heart, from the family, from the ground up, to create these feelings, these concentric feelings, and we have to figure out a way to spread that through the system. Hopefully you can figure it out.
Yeah, it's a tall order.
Well, that's what you came here for, Jonah. You don't know it yet, but you were given this your mission. Should you choose to accept it?
I don't know. I just had my 3rd kid. I'm too busy for that mission.
It's part of the role too.
Yeah. Oh my God, man. This has been great. I can't believe what time just flew by.
Yeah. You're a great guy, man. We don't need to hear from us, but we really enjoyed this conversation and hearing.
That's very kind of you. I enjoyed it too. This is great. I mean, I could talk about this stuff all day.
Listen, we usually have, not usually, we always have, this is a tradition by now. We have the guests read a quote from the sources, right?
Okay.
Not from X, from our own sources. And, but I'm going to give you a choice of 2 Okay, because you're such a great guy, I'm gonna give you the freedom of choice.
We've been talking about dichotomies the whole time, so it's good that I have two to pick from.
Exactly. So here I'm putting it both in the chat.
Okay.
I mean, as we were talking, I was entertaining a bunch, but I think these two. Well, let's see. Yeah. So give him a read for yourself, then choose one and read it out loud. That would be great. I think that would be great note to end on.
Okay. I'm going to read the first one from Hilchot Arev. The essence of the root of arvut, mutual guarantee, is extended from the reception of the Torah, when all of Israel was responsible for one another. And this is because at the root, the souls of Israel are all considered as one because they are extended from the source of unity. For this reason, all of Israel are responsible for one another in the reception of the Torah. It's, everything we've been talking about.
Yeah. See? It's all we've got it all, man. It's
all there. It's all there. We just got to tap into it. Here all along.
Yeah, tap into it. So, with this in mind, if you had a loudspeaker to all the Jewish people in the world, you have a minute. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to, as I like to say, let yourself go full Jew. Whatever that means to you, like quiet that voice that you sometimes hear that says, oh, this is lame, or this is too religious-y, or this is too, opaque, whatever it is. Just let yourself go there. And however that looks, maybe it's you're going to play an Israeli song in your car. Maybe it's you're going to do the long Kiddush instead of the short Kiddush. Maybe it's you're going to read online. You're going to Google what does Parsha of the week mean. Whatever it is, just like go a little bit more. Try to take more ownership of your Jewish identity and let it fill your life with meaning in however is most meaningful to you in your life. But it is this beautiful thing that's there and really deep and really rich and it's just and a bottomless bounty of discovery awaiting you. So take it, be loud, be proud with it, and celebrate it.
Amen. Or start listening to the Jew Function on a regular basis.
Me too. And also, I hope your listeners will come check out Being Jewish with Jonah Platt.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
They can find on YouTube and all the audio platforms and on JBS on TV.
I guarantee all 5 of them will come to your podcast.
I'll see you guys there, those 5.
Jonah, this has been amazing. Man. So happy to have met you. We wish you really to go from strength to strength to continue to spread that message because you're
tell the story, man.
Yeah, you're tapped in.
In a way people can feel it.
Yeah. We're here for you as well, by the way. You're in our circle, as we like to say to our guests. This is it. This is for life. And I really feel this is the time. This it really is
biblical times. This is it. We're
this
in
is
the
movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Thank you, gents.
Okay, guys.
It's our pleasure. So anyone else, listen, check out the Jew Function. We're also on every platform, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook.
Talk about our friends. Enough about us.
No. That was
Being Jewish with Jonah Platt on all the platforms.
No. You just said it. I'm just plugging our show as well.
Okay.
So just leave a comment.
Be a good example.
Yeah, we'll see you next week, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks.